Podziemski, stonewalled, Eason another steal.
Wow. Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
Took it away again! Stole the man's cookies!
That was Tari Eason, and the reason why everyone is freaking out is because not only was it an absolutely monstrous second half performance from him, but it also meant that the Houston Rockets had just come all the way back from down 31 points. The undermanned Warriors led this game 71-40 late in the second quarter, and the Rockets fought back. But this type of thing isn't even really rare anymore. This was already the 9th time this season that a team had completely erased a 20-point lead or larger to take the lead themselves. 9 times in less than 2 weeks, a stat which the Warriors themselves have now been on both sides of, after coming back from down 20 points against the New Orleans Pelicans not even a week earlier. And it got me thinking about something. We've heard over the last couple years or so that 20-point leads are no longer safe, and it does make sense, with an emphasis on three-point shooting, running out in transition, and just overall putting more of a focus on offense have all been major factors into this. But I wanted to find out the extent of this whole 20-point lead conversation, how exactly we got here, and whether or not we are already at the point where there is no lead, no matter how big, that is ever truly safe.
30 in a row! 30 in a row!
The biggest thing I've learned, I'd say, is maybe a 20-point lead is nothing, you know. It works both ways, and this is also something we see in FIBA when we play Team USA and when we scout Team USA. You know, you're gonna be up 15, and in a blink you're gonna be down 1, and you don't know what happened because they ran the fast break like crazy and they made just some defensive stops.
And that was Victor Wembanyama 5 games into his rookie season, explaining that the biggest thing he had learned so far was that a 20-point lead in the NBA is nothing. And this is a fact that's seemingly becoming more and more obvious as the years go on. Teams are able to put together huge runs way more often than they could even just 15 years ago when I first started dedicating a lot of time into watching basketball. I am about to be 25 years old by the time you see this. Time is moving way too fast. The run and gun style of play that we see now was pretty much taboo not too long ago. Teams played much more methodically and by the book, for lack of a better word, which overall just resulted in a slower game, a bigger emphasis on defense, and forcing the ball into the paint. And this is something that has been documented as we've seen the game evolve, and it's a big factor for why we're seeing all these comebacks. The NBA started recording play-by-play data in the 1996-97 season, and so through this, we are able to see exactly how the NBA has changed, and for our conversation in particular, we are able to see how many teams have taken 20-point leads and how many times those leads have been lost. I want to give a huge thank you to @AutomaticNBA on Twitter for providing me with these numbers. You guys should definitely give him a follow. He does research similar to this from time to time. Starting in the 1997 season, there were 397 instances where a team had built a 20-point lead that year, and teams trimmed the lead down to 1 possession just 33 times, and teams only took the lead after going down by 20 just 20 times, meaning that of the teams that went up 20, just 5% of them would go on to blow that lead. So these are our starting points, and what we'll see is that the actual number of 20-point leads being built has risen in this time frame, but the amount of comebacks that we're seeing has more than doubled since even the mid-2000s, with the rate of these comebacks going from about 5% up to consistently over 10%. And this season, as of November 2nd, teams are blowing their 20-point lead nearly 20% of the time, and having that lead brought down to 1 possession over 30% of the time. And as I said before, this kind of makes sense. The style of play we see in the NBA is much more conducive to these types of comebacks that we would rarely see before. And it is ironic, as the team that was on the receiving end of the one at the start of the video was the Golden State Warriors, who were very fundamental in the NBA changing shooting the way it has in the last decade. A team that maximized its talent by taking the best available shots at all times, no matter how early into the shot clock they were. A team that consistently blew everyone out of the water because nobody could keep up with their level of floor spacing and overall efficiency. And a team that, largely due to the impact of Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson, changed the way the game of basketball is played, possibly forever. But in doing so, that also meant that they would eventually be on the other side of that coin. In the 2023-24 season, of Golden State's 36 losses, 14 of them were games in which they held a double-digit lead. And so Warriors head coach Steve Kerr was asked about this topic last season, and his answer basically became a saying overnight.
Way more early possession threes now. So transition threes, it just feels like, you're up 12 and the other team gets 2 quick stops on you and they race down, they throw it ahead and they hit 2 threes. It's like 6-point game, So, 20 is the old 12, 12 is the old 7. I mean, it's just, there's definitely an awareness from everybody that leads are not safe.
And there it was. 20 is the new 12. An idea that JJ Redick and LeBron James discussed on the Mind the Game podcast earlier this year, which really put into perspective just how quickly this league has changed.
I came in the league in 06-07. I played no minutes my first 2 years.
Yeah.
But you know what? If we had a 19-point lead going into the fourth, I might get all 12 minutes of garbage time.
For sure.
People would clear their benches.
Yeah, for sure.
This was 15 years ago.
For sure.
People would clear their benches with a
sure.
17-point lead in the fourth and 9 minutes to go.
For sure.
You can't do that anymore.
You can't do that anymore.
And Kerr echoed that same thing that a lot of players now recognize about the modern NBA. No lead is truly safe. But that got me thinking, what exactly is the threshold here? Because obviously if you're down 50, there's really no possible way to come back from that. And so what exactly is the outer limit to this question? During my research for this video, I found several methods to determine whether or not a lead is mathematically safe, all of them pretty much coming down to the same formula, which was conceptualized by a man that knows a thing or two about stats and probability. Bill James is a statistician and baseball historian who was a key person in pioneering a method of player analysis, which he dubbed sabermetrics, which later became a fundamental factor in baseball team building and was one of the driving forces in this little thing. You may have heard it, people started calling it Moneyball. Anyway, in an article in 2008, James came up with a formula to determine at what exact point is a lead safe. The formula went like this. Take a lead, let's just say 24 points, subtract 3 from that, add half a point if the leading team has the ball, and subtract half a point if the trailing team has it. We'll just say in this situation, the trailing team has the ball right now. Okay, so square that number. And if this number is greater than the amount of seconds left in the game, then this is mathematically a safe lead, in theory. And we can test this by looking at a game that happened just 3 months after this article came out. In Game 4 of the 2008 Finals, the Lakers were able to build a 24-point lead about halfway through the second quarter, and even then, still held a 20-point lead with 6 minutes left in the third quarter. So if we put that info into a calculator that someone made based on Bill James's formula, we would see that this lead is not safe.
Fisher inside, poked away and stolen. Dangerous pass. Ray Allen to the basket and banks it in. Really playing a point guard position then. Here's to the basket. Lots of contact, counting, and a foul. As many as 24. Garnett, the extra pass. House for 3. Puts it in. But tonight, Paul Pierce has been a part of that. Ray Allen as well. He has been consistent and steady. Final seconds, P.J. Brown dunks it. Back in Boston in Game 2. Backs in, jump shot, banks it in. And the Celtics have come back from 24 down to tie the game.
Now settling for half court.
Kevin Garnett, tough shot, knocks it down. Allen back out corner to Posey. That's a 3. It's good. Garnett's first free throw is good. We're getting run off the floor early, trailed by 22 points. Eddie House, quick jump shot. It's good. And the Celtics have their first lead of the game. Get to his spot. Allen on the drive to the basket, up and under, squeezes it in. Hop step in the paint. And gets the bounce. They're up by 5, 88-83. Ray Allen kicks it out. Posey for 3. It's good. good. James Posey from downtown. Pierce has performed admirably at both ends of the floor in the playoffs. You can tell he wants the ball in his hands. Allen on the drive, gets to the basket, lefty layup, banks it in.
And, well, it would be correct. One of the biggest comebacks in finals history that possibly changed legacies forever. So, Milwaukee Bucks fans and any other fan base that has been terrorized by Doc Rivers, you can look to this game in particular as a driving factor into why he was able to coach your team in the coming seasons. But it once again showed that no matter what, the math will always be correct.
Here comes the double after Williams had switched on to Luka. Lawson back-to-back from Luka on threes. Same situation. Oklahoma City a little bit better on the rotation. So Dallas has to make the extra pass. Right of the board. Shot clock winding down. Lob. Can't finish. Nice.
Lucas waving him off.
And pokes it away from Chet Holmgren. Foot race into the backcourt. And the speedster to get there is A.J. Lawson. Finds Luka. This is his 9th game. Here's Lively. Yes. Right down Broadway. Yes. Fancy finish. Adjustment for the fancy little layup. Behind the back to Seth Curry. Bullseye! Against Kenrich Williams, who just went into the game. Luka driving. Yes. Looks off the defense. Seth wins and repeats. 19 in a row. Yep, Curry screening, then Lively screening, and Luka driving on Kenrich Williams. Cross court. Derrick Jones. What is happening? What is happening? It is Luka against Kenrich Williams. Lobbing.
Until it isn't. This was the game that truly made me question everything I knew about the NBA. Same exactly that the Lakers had, 24 points, except this time, the lead completely evaporated in less than 5 minutes of game time. The pre-2024 trade deadline Mavericks just did this to an OKC team that would go on to win the second most games in the league by the end of the season. 30-0 in 6 minutes. And this is where everything we've known about this sport up until this point just breaks down. If we put this 24-point lead into the calculator and give the trailing team 5 minutes, the lead, in theory, is safe. But, of course, theory and practice are two different things. This run was so ridiculous that it broke math. And I want to point out that even though the original formula was from 2008, this calculator had last been updated in 2020. And while the NBA has changed some since then, it doesn't outweigh the change that we saw from 2008 to 2020. And all of a sudden, we have a situation where you can't relax, even with a 25-point fourth quarter lead. And of course, we can again point to the offense and how much it's improved over the last decade, but also how the ideology of teams has shifted. Because back in the 2000s, if you were able to build a lead, even 15 points or so, not even 20, the play style and the way teams were constructed meant that it would take a lot longer for teams to be able to trim that lead down. The leading team would spend a lot of time just wasting as much clock as possible, taking 15 seconds to get into their action, and the trailing team would also be spending that amount of time, but doing so in the process of trying to find the best possible shot, which would usually be a two-pointer close to the basket. And it's not really an indictment of that era, that's just how the game was back then. But over time, teams and players have been given more freedom, especially on offense, which has been the main driving force for all of this. As Steve Kerr said before, early shot clock threes have become exponentially more common since 2010, and that's because players' focuses have shifted. You want to be successful in the NBA? You need to be able to hit a three. And the interesting thing about this is the fact that despite those early shot clock three-point attempts going through the roof, a shot that was always thought to be a bad shot, the overall three-point percentage hasn't budged in the last 15 years. In my mind, this proves that players aren't necessarily becoming more skilled or getting more talented. It's just a different ideology that we see today. The first open look from three has become the best possible shot, which leads to a domino effect because teams are finding those shots more often and quicker than they did before. And so it's not really a viable option anymore to be slowing the game down when the other team is on a run. But odds are that you were also playing that fast to build the lead in the first place, because that's just how teams play now. And so deviating away from that will only get you out of rhythm, and sometimes will actually be detrimental to you in the long run. That Dallas OKC game from earlier, OKC wasn't even really playing that terribly during the run. A couple turnovers here and there, and just missing open shots, and in 5 minutes, you've gone from being up 24 to down 6. The same night Golden State lost that 31-point lead to Houston, the Phoenix Suns held a 26-point lead against the Portland Trailblazers with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, a lead that would be trimmed down to 2 in the next 9 minutes. Game 7 between the Nuggets and Timberwolves last season, the Nuggets held a 20-point lead early in the third quarter, and by the end of the third quarter, that lead was cut to 1. The Lakers trailed the Clippers by 21 with 11 minutes left before LeBron James outscored the entire Clippers team by himself to completely erase that lead in 6 minutes. These comebacks that used to be a rarity are sometimes happening faster than we can even keep up with. As I was finishing this script, the San Antonio Spurs took a 26-point first quarter lead and lost. Yeah, so that blown lead stat that I showed earlier, it's already outdated. I don't know what to do. And I'll be completely honest, I really went into this having no idea what I would find. But after everything and seeing the outer limits of what offenses can do in the NBA now, and really just what a standard offense is doing, I would not feel safe with my team having a 30-point lead to start the fourth quarter, which is absolutely unfathomable to try to tell someone that's living in 2010. I feel like we've gotten to the point where we expect the run to happen, and how my team responds to that run will be the determining factor, because we are quite frankly in a scary new NBA. What used to be a guaranteed win is now a, okay, let's see what happens here. What used to mostly be fake comebacks have now become real comebacks. What used to be a horrible, stupid shot is now often a great shot. I'm kind of excited to see where this goes, but in terms of a solution, honestly, hit your shots. Because when the sport starts exceeding what's mathematically possible, there isn't a solution. When the math can't keep up, there's basically no lead, no matter how big it is, that is ever truly safe. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're new. Hit the bell to be notified when I upload. Comment down below what you want to see next. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.